Thank you very much. Before I share my screen for the presentation, I would like to firstly thank all of you for inviting me into this call. It's my pleasure to be part of this meeting. And it's also a pleasure to have the chance to see people within this call that I know from other synergies. Just allow me, please, to also mention that within Evenflow, since January 2024, we have the role of the executive office team of CEOS, the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, where we have the pleasure to be collaborating with many people that I see that are also currently a part of this call too. So I will be sharing my screen with you now. Just let me know once you see it.
Yes, it is shared.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since Mr. Dr. Idris Yega gave us the presentation of Nigeria, I will bring you a bit back to give you the introduction of what exactly this assessment is. So first of all, I would like to share with you two very important things. Why is it important to know where a country starts, and what is actually the Earth observation maturity methodology? To start with, it's very important to clarify that it's very vital to know that the current state of EO activities at country level is not systematically assessed, and decision makers and other EO stakeholders can all benefit from knowing more about where a country stands, and even more from knowing where there is a potential space for progress. So the accurate knowledge of current capabilities, but also its evolution over time, can help decision makers and other EO stakeholders in their long-term planning. In this way, they can direct investment where it's most needed, where there are any gaps, and when it's also suitable, the strengths on that. So these are the main points that made us realize that there needs to be an assessment, and this is what we call the Earth observation maturity methodology. So this is a methodology that is actually allowing us to assess the maturity level of Earth observation related activities within a country, and it consists of different indicators across three pillars. These pillars are the stakeholder ecosystem, the infrastructure, and the regulatory framework. So this is actually a modular methodology, which means that it can be implemented in parts. And this is also bringing some new indicators, addressing a specific need that can be introduced, as long as they are well-defined and straightforward to measure. So far, this methodology has been applied in many different countries. So it started with 11 countries under a project that was called back then GeoCradle. And then it was implemented by ESAID project that's linked to Eurogeo in 9 countries: Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Czechia, Cyprus, Finland, Greece, Italy, and Portugal. So later on, it was independently deployed in DG IMPA assignments. And first it was introduced in the Philippines and the Bangladesh, and later in 9 sub-Saharan African and 6 Latin American countries. So I have been working on the first part, so the 9 sub-Saharan African countries, since last year, November, where I completed this assessment with different stakeholders from 9 different sub-Saharan African countries. So in the recent months, in the last 4 to 5 months, it was also picked up by the GEO in connection to the National Coordination Mechanism. And until today, this has been implemented in total 35 times. So how does this methodology actually work? As I mentioned, we have 3 pillars, and then we have different indicators. So for each indicator, implementing partners collect relevant evidence. Later on, we give some desk research on the final findings, and then there is an analysis of the collected evidence, allowing us to assign the maturity levels. Here, in this slide, you can see on the right part how this evaluation looks like. So what we actually use for this assessment is a chart, so an Excel sheet, where we have different indicators for each pillar, and we evaluate these indicators from 0 to 4. So there is an indication for the actual explanation of its number here. And here I show you on the left the whole circle of this assessment. So the EO maturity indicator circle is something that is always being adapted to the targeted country. So as you see here, I mentioned that there is, for example, for the gap analysis, 1 week time, and then for the first assessment, 1 week time, and so on. So this is something that always is being adapted to the needs of the country, because we had the cases where one country, for example, needed more time for the evaluation and enhancement and the first assessment than other countries. So this always has to deal with how mature the country is and how much access there is on the given data. And as said, since this is an activity that is being done not only from the stakeholders or the local stakeholder, but in comparison to the desk analysis that is happening at the same time, this is a process that always needs to be adapted. So what we see here is a collaboration between the national ecosystem stakeholders, experts, and validators. Because for all the data that we collect, at the end, we give enough time and space to validate the findings. So later on, we have a result like the one that Mr. Yega already showed you before. So what does this methodology yield? So here on the right, you will see an example of the maturity cards that are being produced at the end of this assessment. So at the end of the process, we have this powerful visualization in the form of maturity cards. And this card presents the current maturity of the country across the different pillars for its group and its indicators. And these cards provide decision makers and EO value chain actors with concise information that can allow them to identify the different gaps and future opportunities for future investments. So actually, this is not a tool for comparison. This methodology allows to identify patterns and their underlying factors. And with looking at the same country over time, this methodology helps us to pinpoint progress and tie it back to effective decisions and interventions. So bottom line here is that decision makers and EO stakeholders are in a better position to coordinate national plans and direct investments and address gaps. Before I finish with this presentation, I would like to say that we would greatly appreciate and encourage the whole community to also zoom in some of these indicators and develop standardized methodologies for the collection and evaluation of data. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any more, if you want to receive any more specific information on the different pillars and indicators, feel free to contact me through my personal email, or you can also find more information about this whole assessment on the site that I indicate here. And I'm here to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.